Good afternoon, baseball fans, and welcome to another edition of Sports Talk with Rags here in Season 3, Episode 25. And today we are honored here to not only have a Monarch baseball alum with us, but longtime former Great Bridge High School head coach here, Wiley Lee, with us today. Coach Lee, how you doing this afternoon?
I am well. Thank you for having me on, man. It's always good to be on to talk local baseball from Old Dominion to Great Bridge to Norfolk State. It's a great environment to be able to spend time and reflect on.
Right. Well, hey, and let's start at the beginning here. I know that you were from Emporia. So, hey, growing up, was it playing all sports, or just as you got older, just stuck to baseball?
Well, I was fortunate to be able to play baseball and football, and played it as much as I could. And then, right through my senior year,
Right.
wasn't much of a football player, but baseball is what was going to give me an opportunity in college. And I was fortunate to have Coach Hudson, Bob Hudson, be my baseball coach, and he and Mark Newman and Guzzo was at VCU at the time.
Right.
Were in a recruiting battle for my services. I didn't know how. I didn't have any services in my mind, but in my coach's mind, I was going to be a pretty good baseball player.
Yes, and they're at Emporia, where 95 intersects 58. So going to the diamond wasn't that far, but definitely glad to get you playing at the Bud and being a Monarch.
Absolutely, my time with Coach Newman and Six and Bags and guys like that was just phenomenal for me. The time that I spent over there, and still family and friends with people to this very day at Old Dominion University.
Yes, and let's remind the Monarch fans. I mean, a little bit different here with schools changing conferences, but they're in the mid '80s, Old Dominion, Sun Belt, and now today Finwood's group competing in the Sun Belt.
Yeah, that's pretty remarkable. It's come full circle and really special for me. I've enjoyed watching Coach Finwood and the team that he's been able to put on the field over at Old Dominion University, and definitely makes me reflect back to our times when we were there in 85, 86, and 87 was just incredible times and played with some really great players over there.
Yes, and with doing some research prior to this episode, I mean the '85 team, 50 wins, and at the Bud, only one home loss.
Yeah, that was remarkable, man. I've never really played on a team that was that dynamic, man. And I was, like I said, a freshman on that team, so
Right.
it was unbelievable. And Coach Newman gave me the nod after about the second or third game to go in and hit lead off, and I was fortunate to be just crazy enough to believe that I could hit lead off on a Division One team, and that was not my plan going in. I can assure you of that, but. As things played out, it turned into a great situation for myself and Old Dominion University.
Yes, and then after Old Dominion, I see with the Angels giving you an opportunity here and playing a few years there in their minor league organization.
Yeah, I enjoyed my time there. Coach Joe Madden was a roving hitting instructor, and obviously he went on to be a dynamic manager and do some great things. And I still am in contact with guys that I played with the Angels to this very day. It was a great honor making two minor league All Star teams, and as well as playing for the USA team in '86. That was a tremendous honor for myself and my family, especially coming out of Emporia.
Right.
And you have dreams, but Coach Newman and the staff at Old Dominion, Carol Hudson, and the people that kept track of your numbers and promoted you just did an outstanding job.
Yes, yeah, and, and wearing, the red, white, blue. I mean, just with the World Baseball Classic just finishing up and the Olympics. I mean, you always hear where people are definitely proud to wear the uniform of their country.
Oh, absolutely, man. It was a phenomenal, life-changing event for myself. You know, being able to travel all around the United States and then going over to Holland, Amsterdam, and playing over there was just, that was my first time ever being overseas, and often it was my first time going to these states, representing the United States internally in the continental United States. And so it really broadened my vision of how baseball can alter your life, man. And it was just a phenomenal event.
Right. And then after your playing days were over, I know that you got hired by Chesapeake Public Schools, and then in 98 got a opportunity here to start your head coaching there with your shirt and your hat there with leading Great Bridge baseball.
Well, it was a great time, no doubt. I cut my teeth at Indian River as a JV coach under Coach Steve West, and then
Yeah.
under Coach 1 year under Coach Gedro over at Hickory, and then
Okay.
I got the opportunity to be the head coach at Great Bridge, and what a great honor with the tradition and pride that they had, that we were able to elevate that. And I remain humble for Bob Glisson was the principal there for 1 year, and he often reflects that was his best hire.
Right.
And that 1 year was the opportunity for him to give me a chance to be the head coach at Great Bridge. And I had some great assistants, and Rob Demera, Taylor Grissom, Greg Jennings. I just had some incredible all the way through. While I was there, was just phenomenal coaches, and the present coach there now, King Kellum, played for me on that 2003 state championship team, the first in the city of Chesapeake.
Right. Yeah. So I know you started in 98, but let's go to that 2003 team. I mean, playing James Robinson and in the state championship game, I mean, putting the beat down 12-3.
Well, we were explosive, man. I just tried to stay out of the way and not mess that thing up. When you got players like Justin Upton, who would eventually be the #1 pick in the 2005 draft in MLB, you just kind of like usher that thing along and make sure you don't mess it up. And we have some really good players, like I said, King Kellum, T.J. Bray,
Right.
Chris Keenan, Mike Mitchell. We just have some really good guys. And during that time, my time at Great Bridge, we were very fortunate to have some really good teams.
Yes, and then let's see. I know that I work for the government, here in downtown Portsmouth. But 2005, Ernie was helping Coach Wright, there at Western Branch, and so I was helping out with doing the stats and with Nansen River hosting the district tournament. I brought my nephew out. So 2005, my nephew was 8 or 9 years old, and at the end of the game, Mr. Wright took us over, took my nephew and I over to y'all's dugout, and we met you. And then Mr. Wright's like, "Hey, Rags' nephew wants to meet Justin." Justin Upton came out, signed a baseball, so just certainly appreciate there after the game, but then also teaching your players, hey, here you have another generation that's already looking for high school. So just remember here with the kids that are watching. I mean, it's always been great baseball there with Southeastern District.
Oh my goodness, yes, some incredible baseball players that come through, and the original one being Michael Kadire laid the foundation for us to be able to literally be able to touch these guys when they came home in the all season. So Justin Upton and all of our guys. I mean, Mike bought us brand new uniforms, 3 sets.
Wow.
BJ Melvin Upton was instrumental with getting us gear, and then David Wright, and it was just you can name guys. Zimmerman, just guy after guy was just accessible to the youth in baseball. And then back then, Coach County Townsend was alive, and
Right.
he spent quality time amongst those guys and laying the foundation so that when these guys came home, they were very accessible to the local community, and that goes back to Mike being accessible to us at Great Bridge. I mean, when he came home and came out to the field, we were obviously the guys were in awe. This is an MLB player, but he treated it like he was just one of the guys, man, and they could get instruction from him. They could talk to him. They could shake his hand,
Right.
and he was just accessible. So when those guys Justin became what he did in those 15 years, he was always accessible to the local community.
Right. And so I grew up in a military family. We moved here in the August of '87. My brother was Mike Ragsdale was a freshman there at Western Branch, played for
Mm-hmm.
Senko. But his Spanish teacher there freshman year was Jerry Gaines. And, just another mutual friend that when he got into administration, went over to Great Bridge. And I remember him talking about, Kadire not only as a great baseball player, but on and off the field, just a great person.
Well, when you mentioned the name of Mr. Jerry Gaines, you definitely tapped into a legend there. I mean, a man that went to Virginia Tech and ran track, man, and the ability to turn tough situations back then into a plausible situations today, and harbor no ill will. He just goes around, man, telling a great story. He's written, the book 40 Stories High, and
Right.
built on the back of all of his students that he's come across. And I was just blessed to be able to another man that was standing there, that traveled with us and gave us inspiration, gave us guidance, man, and such a humble spirit, and such a tremendous leader, such an asset to the city of Chesapeake when he was involved in the city of Chesapeake as an administrator and as a coach.
Yes, and before we talk about more years of Great Bridge, I mean, going back there, '03, '04, '05. I mean, here it is, the first day of spring break, so back in the day, Great Bridge baseball would go on the road and play out of town competition there during spring break.
Oh, absolutely. This time of the year definitely conjures up desires to head south to Florida and play some of the top teams down there. Pat Chichester was a guy that connected us with either regional champions or state champions when we went down there. So, like Anthony Rizzo and guys like
Right.
that, we would play their schools while he was in high school during his senior year, and be able to play those guys, man. And Roland Wright, who is the head coach now at Western Branch, who was my assistant
Right.
for a little bit when I was at Great Bridge, just you know jumped on, and he's continuing to do it right now, going down there over the many, many years that he's been a phenomenal asset to this area too as a head coach. So, and as well as St. Clair Jones, so those guys, I mean, I've got a coaching fraternity that is phenomenal, man, that and that's why I was only able to last 14 years, because you can't play those guys, whether it's Norby Wilson and all those guys for so long, man. It's such a combative and competitive atmosphere on every Tuesday and Friday, man. It was just phenomenal.
Yeah, and and then as you continued there at Great Bridge, you had the opportunity to coach your son, Justin, and then in 2011 against South County, you guys got another state title there for the Great Bridge baseball program.
That was a phenomenal year, man. We had Justin Lee obviously being my son, Hunter Higginson,
Yeah.
Connor Jones, Cooper Jones. We just had some phenomenal Preston Grissom, uh, Beard. We just had some Dudley. We had some phenomenal Jimmy Cody, just Ashton Groves, just phenomenal players, man, that went out and they were determined to be special. And that was actually the last high school game that I coached, was that state championship game.
Oh wow.
Going up there to their area, they were 28-0.
Oh wow.
Had hit like 73 home runs, but we were not going to be intimidated. I assure you, those guys took the field, man. And Connor Jones, who went on to play at UVA and is playing pro ball right now, and Cooper
Right.
Jones, who went to Norfolk State. closed that game out, and the boys just did an unbelievable job. And as we like to say at Great Bridge, 28-1 is real nice to say to South County, man. So it's been many a year since then, but the boys pass by South County, they'll send me a picture of the school and say, "Coach, that's what second place looks like," because the championship is in Great Bridge. So, and of course, back when we were playing, we couldn't talk that way, but we're
Right.
all done now, and so we share those great stories.
Yeah, and and the thing is with newer schools and just they're in 2014 time frame, 13-14 school year, the VHSL ended up changing based on enrollment,
Hmm.
to go from, A, double A, triple A to then going from one through six, and so just, times have changed here for over the years.
Oh, absolutely, it has, and I've enjoyed the fact that the Western Branch has grabbed a couple of state championships. I believe Nansemond River did as well.
Right,
And there'll be a time where on each level, I
right,
believe this area is good enough to be able to bring home a state championship to this area because the competition is just that fierce. At the top levels when you go out. Many times when we were playing, it was just almost impossible to get out of the district tournament
right,
or the region because only two teams would come out of the region, man. So your chances were one or two. That was it.
right,
It was no opportunity based on enrollment back then. During my coaching tenure, to be able to say, okay, we can be a smaller school
right,
and get in. You still had to go through when we beat South County, I dare say Great Bridge was probably 1,200 students,
right.
and South County was way up at 2,800 students. So you still had to beat them. You still had to go in, and those were the rules at that time. And we took great pride in being able to do it, though. No excuses, and the boys went out and got it done.
Yes, and I think in 2014, when Roland had that great team there at Western Branch and they played at Robinson, I think Group 5, the state title was before our game, and that was Hickory, Coach Kraft, I think a Great Bridge alum, and
Yeah.
so it's definitely a lot of pride here with 757 teams go up to Northern Virginia and not only compete, but when it's said and done, and on that Group 5, Group 6 championship Saturday, Hickory won the early game, and then Western Branch won. So definitely, 757 teams definitely take great pride going up to Northern Virginia and say, "Hey, Southeastern Virginia could play baseball."
Oh, absolutely. It's a lot of testosterone and a lot of energy, man, to go out there and be able to do that. And Hickory did grab their championship. And like I said, it's just, you're not going to keep us out of it.
Right.
It's just very difficult because we have good pitching at the higher levels when you get to those games. And the guys have played on and seen, some good arms during the course of the year. And it's just hard to keep this area out of those championship rounds.
Right. When you had an opportunity to go somewhere else, I do know that you also spent a couple years assisting there at Norfolk State.
That was a great time, and that was another Great Bridge connection. And Coach Clark, who played and pitched at Great Bridge, and
Okay.
he gave me an opportunity to go there, and we were able to win the first Northern Division championship and for Norfolk State, and go back to back with those championships. So, and again, just a great camaraderie of guys there that I'm still in contact with to this day. I go to their weddings
Right.
and special events of their kids being born. It's just a great I've been blessed, man, and from whether it's high school up to college, playing myself or being a coach at that level myself, and now just being over with Mike Kadire, helping out with his complex and his facility. Just a blessing that I've been able to be involved in baseball this long and have the number of relationships that I have.
Yeah, and it definitely brings up a good point that when the playing days are over, the coaching days are over. I mean, it's all about relationships, and for a college teammate or a high school kid that you coached, or a guy that you coached with, relationships at the end of the day, to pick up the phone, and like you talked about, going to weddings, being there for family functions, and at the end of the day, it's just about being a mentor there to the kids that you coach.
Oh, absolutely, man. It was and I fell into a great situation where I had supportive parents, supportive administration from, you know, the principals that I had that led us there, and which Miss Carolyn Bernard was my principal for that first state championship, and just an incredible run, man, of great, great people. Like I said, the Jennings and the Kadires, the Uptons, and right through the very end with the Mitchells and the Grissams and the Demaras, the Sutmillers. I had all three of their sons played for me,
Yeah.
and it's just the Braves the same way.
Right.
I had all three of their sons, so it was just it's lineage,
Right.
and you connect yourself and you try to do the best you can with each and every group that you have. But this area is definitely a great place to settle in and catch baseball games, man. You can see some really good games out there on any given game day.
Yeah, and it seems like you coach Ken. Ken's now leading Great Bridge baseball. Over at Hickory, Coach Kraft has a Hickory alum, Cody Snyder. And then over at Western Branch, Justin Hayes is involved with the JV program that Roland's got, and at Dancer River, Stufel has Ty Rivers taken over the program. So it just seems here in our area, you guys lay down the foundation, and then and then to your player, hey, now it's your time to continue the tradition and take over the program.
The guys that you just named, just in that small window there, cost me a lot of sleepless nights, man. When you're mentioning those kind of guys, the River Boys were just unbelievable, man. And having to deal with those, and Brandon Lau at the time was
Right.
at Hickory I'm sorry, at National River at the same time, and Ty's doing an incredible job. He's well grounded. He's a family man.
Yeah.
He does things the right way, man, and just facing him and his brothers and all those guys, whether it was Hickory and the Sizemores or David Wright or whoever it was, man, it was just any given night you could go to a game and watch some of the best baseball that you could ever see, man. And those guys went on, Mason Dunaway was player of the year at Hickory. He's down at JMU. And you can follow, their tracks from high school right into college. DeMartini is
Right.
up at Virginia Tech tearing it up. Kennedy is down at UNC Charlotte. I mean, it's just a plethora of players that continue to make that jump to the next level, man. And it's just an incredible time that I happened to be coming through and was able to have a bird's eye view of what baseball should look like, how it's played, and I was blessed.
Yeah, yes. And the other thing is, talking about the many connections between, you and I, with having some mutual friends, with my brother Mike, playing baseball, and Ernie, reconnecting us there at the ODU baseball banquet. But, and actually, Ernie, had the opportunity of building up Oscar Smith's
That's right.
baseball program. But all these friends off the field, when game time comes, yeah, everybody wants to win. But at the end of the day, we're all friends, and we're all rooting for each other's teams as everybody else continues on with their season.
Oh, absolutely, man. It's you can remember I know my nemesis was Norby Wilson when I came in, and Jimmy Hunt, but Norby was the one that we had to beat because
Right.
First Colonial was that good, and the Eisenberg brothers, and God knows, man, I'm gonna be sleepless tonight thinking about those guys. Thankful to God that I don't have to face those dudes anymore and find a way to beat them or the Sinning, because we're
Right.
over there at Old Dominion and Matt Sennin and his family. I mean, how dynamic of a baseball family was that at Kellum, and well deserved, the Bud Award that he got, man. And I happened to be at my wife was at an event where his son was getting married, and
Oh, wow.
and she told me the Sinnons were coming in, and I told her, you're not going to meet a better family. And just as sure, she came in that night, was like, those people are some of the best people. And then, we end up going over to Old Dominion to see him get the Bud Matheny Award. And it's just a tight knit family, man, of great people that I've been just fortunate to have my little pinky dropped in and be associated with these kinds of people.
Yeah, the funny thing is, my brother Mike, he, wore the blue and gold there at Western Branch, played Commonwealth games with somebody
Mm.
that was connected with Granby, but I think Towney, was an assistant coach there. He was over at Lake Taylor at the time. But then when Mike went on to William and Mary, well, William and Mary's colors are Great Bridge's colors,
Yeah. Yeah, that gets a little dicey right there, man. When you played as many competitive games against somebody in green and gold, and then you have to put it on. It's definitely a challenge, no doubt about that. And I was fortunate. I went from Great Bridge and green and gold to Norfolk State, which is green and gold. So, I didn't have that dilemma, but many guys do, man. And it's just a tribute to how competitive it is, man. I mean, any given night, I've lost to Ernie over at Oscar Smith. People ask, how, we were greatly successful, but at the same time, you on any given night, you can lose to any of these great teams and coaches and players that you were facing on the other side. So you had to bring it every night. There was no taking the night off and cruising or sleepwalking through anything. It was always competitive.
Right. And I brought my dad and my brother there to the Chesapeake Sports Club Jamboree here when Johnny Bench, was speaking here, the one that they just had. And, Coach Oliver, I forgot that he was involved with the Chesapeake Sports Club. And my brother, who graduated in 91, he's like, hey, that's Coach Oliver from Great Bridge, right? And I said, yeah, because you brought up where early 2000s, it's or mid 90s, they went to two teams going to the playoffs. I mean, 1989, we had to battle Great Bridge in a district playoff game because only one team
That's
from
right.
district, and Great Bridge got us that year, but just, names here around the Southeastern District, especially Western Branch and Great Bridge, you go to a function, just great people.
Yeah, it's just tremendous people, man. Coach Oliver was the head coach there at Great Bridge for 33 years, and the field is named after him, as a matter of fact. So it's
Okay.
plays great homage to him, and what he attempted to do while he was at Great Bridge, building that tradition and pride there, and then it's just a competitive. Like you said, back then only one team, and then two, it was just many great teams went home and didn't get the chance to play for a state championship
Right.
during that era, man. And I think it's better now because it's fairer. I think because you get to go in and do it according to your school size.
Right.
So you're not a 1,200 student body school facing a 3,200 school student body school and trying to accomplish your dreams of a state championship. Because the more bodies you have in your school, the more. For us, when I was there, I knew every 100 baseball players, students, we were going to get one good baseball player out of it.
Right.
So if we had 1,200 students, we got 12 really good. If we got 1,500, we got a chance to get 15 really good players. So that's how the numbers worked out when I was there. and why the numbers are important. Because if you play in a team that's got 2,500 students, it's a good chance they got 25 really good baseball players to your 12, and your 12 might not be on varsity. You may have some young guys that are on JV, so it's competitive, man. And my hat goes off to the guys who've transitioned, and the ads and the administration, especially the coaches and players who've now had to transition into that opportunity to play equal size schools, and they've weathered that chance. Because now, as I was talking to Mike Kadire just the other day about this, if I went down to Florida and we played 4 games down there, and 2 of them were state champions and 2 of them were regional champions, if you lose and you come back in your division in Virginia, you get punished because you don't
Right.
rank as high anymore. So it's real dicey now to even go down there and introduce yourself and find out what your team can do away from that big game in Virginia, because if you lose, you may end up punishing your guys because you may not get the ranking.
Right. And I know Western Branch is in the midst of traveling down there right now. And but Grassfield, Kellum, Nancy River, and Great Bridge, I mean, those are just the 4 schools that I know that are playing like a round robin here, staying in town.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, because if you go down there to Florida and you lose, you could put yourself in harm's way. If you win, you're great, but if you
Right.
lose, which is early in the season, these guys, Coach Wright's going down there with probably 5 or 6 games, 5 games under his belt, and playing a team that's already got 25 games under their belt. So they know what their rotation is. They know who their closers are.
Right.
They've experimented with the pitch hitters. They've got their DHs. They got everything lined up, where we're just those teams are just 5 games in. We don't have that figured out.
Yeah, and I know that both you and I, me, Western Branch, you, Great Bridge, but my sister, she lives in Northern Virginia. She got Mr. Gates to talk to her company, via Zoom one day. But her youngest son played in a tournament in New Kent, and in the opening ceremonies of this summer tournament, my brother-in-law's like, yeah, some guy from VCU kicked it off. And I said, what's the kid's name? And he's like, Scott Sizemore. I said, before VCU, he was Hickory.
Hickory, yes. Yes.
So my brother-in-law looks at me, and long story short, I got Scott, to come on the podcast. But I mean, even local guys, they might have moved away, but where they're at, they're still giving back to the next generation of ball players.
Another guy who has caused me sleepless nights, man, for like 3 years is Scott Sizemore. You just say the name, any of those Sizemore guys, man, from the dad to the sons. Oh my gosh, man, just tossing and turning all night. How am I gonna get this dude out, man? I mean, can anybody be on base in front of him, because he's gonna drive him in? And Scott Sizemore was just a phenomenal player, man, and he was phenomenal up at VCU, and he got the unfortunate injuries to his knee in pro ball. He would have had a illustrious career as well, man. It just shows you over and over how many of these guys just constantly are rebooting themselves, and it's just a tribute to Coach Townsend, Townie Townsend, and that group that came through with Mike Kadire, and just what he did was setting the groundwork, and the stage back then was just phenomenal, man. And I know I keep going back to those guys because you can't have what you have today, and players that are going to college and chasing pro dreams without those guys from that laid the groundwork and showed you how to do it, not only as a professional, but a community
Right.
person that was accessible to these kids and talked to these kids and spent time with them. And it's just a blessing.
Yes. Well, hey, Coach Lee, I'm sorry that we went over, and just got one thing to ask you after we're done taping. So if you could just stay on for like
Yes,
2 minutes.
sir.
But
Absolutely.
appreciate your time, and any last minute words here for the kids playing high school sports right now here. Any last minute words here to wrap up this episode?
Well, you're gonna have to be able to deal with some failure, because baseball in this area, like you said, back in the day was one team. When y'all came through, then it was two teams. So when you face those guys, it's always challenging, man. And I would be remiss to think that you're gonna go through like South County thought they were gonna go through unscathed, 28-0, and it's 28-1, baby. And we will never let them forget that. My wife's a Great Bridge alumni. She went to Great Bridge. My daughter, who did gymnastics. She's a two-time state champion there. My son was a state championship there. So, we're Wildcats,
Right.
but we recognize the amount of athletics that is in this area, the amount of great people. What the sport doesn't matter. It's just very competitive, and just go out, be coachable, chase your dream, and you're gonna have to deal with some failure. And can you handle a miss and then come back and still perform? So it's been my honor to be on with you, and I look forward to seeing the guys out at whatever sporting event it is that they're involved.
Yeah, well, hey, thanks for your time today, and that's a wrap here with Coach Lee talking about his story here, being part of ODU, and then getting the opportunity here to coach Great Bridge and then Norfolk State, and still being around the game of baseball here in the city of Chesapeake. So thanks again, Coach Lee.
Thank you so much, sir, for having me.
All right.